Hey YouTubers, welcome back to DonnyBoy73, the Small Engine Doctor, and welcome back to another episode of Small Engines Questions and Answers for Friday, September 30th, 2011. Well, it's hard to believe that it's the end of September and we're going into October, but the weather's been like super awesome here. It's 24 degrees today. I'm filming this earlier in the week. But the weird thing is I've been sick for most of the weekend and part of the week with a cold. That's kind of unusual to get sick at this time of the year, but I guess there's a lot of stuff going around at this time. So that's why I look a bit tired today. So I'll get right into the questions. The first question is a YouTuber is telling me that he's got a chainsaw and when it's idling, the chain is turning around the bar all the time. Well, I just happen to have a chainsaw in my shop right now that's doing the same thing. I'm going to start it up to show you what it's doing and then I'm going to show you what's causing that. Here's the saw. It's Husqvarna 51. I'll start it up and just notice when it's idling how the chain is constantly turning around the bar. When the chainsaw is functioning properly, the chain should stop turning when the saw is idling. Well, usually to repair this problem, you'd have to take the clutch cover off, and most of the time the clutch spring needs to be replaced. The clutch spring may look different on other chainsaws, but they're all there for the same purpose, to keep the clutch from engaging too soon. These springs are fairly inexpensive and easy to replace, and I'll be posting a video soon after I repair this saw. Now another question I get asked about chainsaws is sometimes when they're about to run out of fuel, they start to rev high. A YouTuber asked me, is this bad for the saw? Well, it can be bad. As soon as you notice it starts to rev high, that means it's running lean, and you should stop it right away and refill the fuel tank. Don't try to keep running it until the gas tank is totally empty, because if it starts to run too lean, you could damage the engine. Now my next question is in regards to Craftsman snowblowers, just like this one over here. Sometimes people tell me I've put a new belt for the auger and it still slips on the engine pulley. The first thing I would do is try adjusting the cable. If you tighten this in, it's going to make it tighter when you press down the lever here on the handlebar. But if you've tightened up the cable to its maximum and the belt is still loose, then it could be that your engine mounting plate is cracked like this one over here, as you can see, right there. Now this plate is bolted on each side here, and because the plate is cracked, it makes the engine want to tilt down, thus causing the belts to be a bit too loose. So in this case, you'd have to take the engine off. You could repair the plate or get a new one and replace it. Fairly big operation, but if you can do it yourself, you're going to save yourself a lot of money. If your snowblower is still on warranty, then take advantage of your warranty and take it to a shop. Because if you have to pay for this repair out of your pocket, it could start getting expensive. The plate's not too expensive, it's only between $20 and $30, but it's the labor that could end up costing you a lot of money. Another question I often get is, how come you don't have too many engine rebuilds on your channel? Well, the reason for that is because we live in a throwaway society, meaning that a lot of people will throw something out and buy a new one before spending the money to repair it. And I don't blame people, because sometimes an engine rebuild can cost over half of what a new engine would cost, sometimes even close to what a new one costs. I don't know why the engine parts are so expensive sometimes, but it does not encourage people to repair what they have. Just to give you an example, if you blow the top pen on this, the piston, rings, and cylinder on a saw like this, it can end up costing you about $400 just in parts if you buy the OEM replacement parts, plus your labor. Now a lot of contractors would rather just go buy a new one for $1,000 instead of paying $500-600 to get it repaired. Their logic is, even though I've repaired the top pen, at the end of the day, I still have an old saw, and sometimes they'll go buy a new one that's the same thing, and then they have the old one for parts. And even if you replace the top pen, there can still be other parts that are damaged that are super expensive, like the crankshaft. Now when it comes to 4-cycle engines like this, if you blow a rod and you go to buy a new block, for example on this engine, it would cost about $379 brand new if you can find an engine block. I actually went and priced a block one time for somebody that had blew a connecting rod through it, and it's pretty easy to do the math. I mean, if the engine block costs $379 plus tax, you might as well just buy another snowblower for that price. If you totally blew the engine on the snowblower like this, which is fairly new, a new engine here probably would cost about $700, and sometimes you can find a used snowblower in as good a condition as this for about that price or just a little bit more. So people don't want to be bothered with rebuilding engines, and or sometimes just replacing an engine for people isn't even worth it. And it's the same when it comes to chainsaws. If you blow the top pan and you go to buy the OEM parts, it's super expensive. Sometimes it's usually not even worth fixing. But like you've seen in one of my videos, if you do buy an aftermarket cylinder kit, sometimes that makes it worth repairing. And even sometimes if I acquire stuff for free, it's not even worth it for me to fix it, and my labor is free because I do it myself. So it just goes to show, most of the time it's not worth rebuilding engines. I usually only end up rebuilding an engine when it's really expensive to replace the engine, but fairly inexpensive to rebuild it. Last tip today is a YouTuber just asked me, what do you use to clean the oil off your tools? Well, this is what I use. This product here, you can stick it in a spray bottle, and I buy it at Home Depot. It's fairly cheap, and you can dilute it with water, so it's going to last you a really long time. It's super good stuff. It's even good to clean your countertops of any oil or dirt. Anyways, that'll be it for this week's Q&A. I want to welcome all my new subscribers. Have yourselves a great weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.